Good morning, dear children. I hope all of you are doing well. So in previous chapter, we have learned what is history, why do we read history, and the sources of history. And today, let us learn from history lesson number 2, that is the earliest societies. So let's start. Man by nature is a social animal. He cannot live alone. Even when he wandered in search of food and shelter, he lived in groups. It was the beginning of the earliest societies, a group generally consisted of a few men and women and children who stayed together because it was safer to live in groups rather than to wander about all alone. So man by nature is a social animal. He cannot live alone. Even when he wandered in search of food and shelter, he lived in groups. The early men, because they did not know how to produce food, they also did not have any permanent shelter, so they were always in search of new places to get food and shelter. So men, women and children stayed and moved together because it was safer to live in one or move in groups rather than to wander alone. So names and dates. The earliest societies passed through various stages. We can judge this from stone tools and implements, which are of different types and size and of different designs. This is a stage when stone tools and implements alone form the source of early man. Is known as the Stone Age. The anthropologists, on the basis of these tools and implements, have divided the Stone Age into different stages. That is, the Paleolithic Age, the Mesolithic Age, and the Neolithic Age. And let's discuss one by one. The Paleolithic Period. The period of the evolution when man he started living together with his fellow beings, attained the art of speaking, and started making tools from stone for his use. This called the Paleolithic period. He started his search of food by hunting animals and gathering fruits. In short, he started a wanderer's life. This period extends roughly from 2 million years ago to about 12,000 years ago. This period covers about 99% of human history. So during the Paleolithic period, the man was a hunter and food gatherers. Okay, the human being used to use simple chipped and chopped type stone tools for hunting and other purposes. The people were not aware of neither agriculture, no home constructions, hence the life was not properly settled. People survived, consumed roots of trees, wild fruits, and lived in caves and hills. Now next is the Mesolithic period. The period of man's life between the Paleolithic period and the Neolithic period is called the Mesolithic period. Okay, this period started about 12,000 years ago till about 10,000 years ago, and so many environmental changes. During this period, men started making highly developed tools. Use of bones and ivory was in vogue, and various kinds of tools were made. During this period, he learned the art of growing his food. This was, however, the beginning of agriculture. So, the period of man's life between the Paleolithic period and the Neolithic period is called the Mesolithic period. Okay, and this period started about 12,000 years ago until above 10,000 years ago, and so many environmental changes. During this period, men started making highly development tools. Okay, slowly they learned, and use of bones and ivory was in vogue, and various kinds of tools were made. During this period, he learned the art of growing his food. This was, however, the beginning of agriculture. As you can see in the picture, they invented wooden bows of arrows for hunting, boats for fishing. Alright, now we'll proceed to the next. And the next is the Neolithic period. This period started about 10,000 years ago. This was a period in which, by a very slow process, since the Mesolithic period, man had taken to agriculture. He changed his habits from food gathering to fruit producing. Okay, before they were food gathering, now they are food producing. He gave up nomadic life, okay, not to wander one place to another, and took a settled life. He improved his stone tools into fine, sharp-edged, and polished weapons. He began to domesticate animals for his food instead of hunting them. So, the Neolithic period, this period is significant for its megalithic agriculture. The spread of agriculture practices and started using polish stone tools, and they began to domesticate animals instead of hunting them, okay, for his food. And they began to domesticate animals for his food instead of hunting them, because as you can see here in the picture, because they understood that animals are helpful for them. Some provide them food, some help them in farming, while other carried load, and beside the skin and dung was very useful for them. Now let's proceed to the next topic, that is the Paleolithic or the Old Stone Age, 2 million years ago to 12,000 years ago. Here definition is given here. Paleolithic, paleo plus lith. Paleo means old and lith means stone. Old Stone Age. Its chief features or characteristic. Primitive man was only a little better than wild animals. That means early man, okay? Early man was only a little better than wild animals. The only difference was that while man walked on 2 feet and used his hands, animals walked on all 4. And now here you can see in figure 2.1, early man made use of animal skins, bones, stones and wood to make huts and tents. As you can see here in the picture, they used to use animal skins, bones, stones and wood to make huts and tent, okay? He made use of natural pigment from plants and rocks to draw pictures on walls. And the next, hunting and food gathering as a way of life and its implications. The early men, the so-called hunter-gatherers, were always on the move and did not stay at one place for longer. This was because of the following reasons. So the early men, the so-called hunter-gatherers, they used to always move one place to another for their livelihood, and they did not stay at one place for longer, and this was because of the following reasons. So let's see that. First, they did not know how to produce their food, so they were always on the move in search of new places where they could find their food easily. So their children, the early men did not know, okay? The early men did not know how to produce food. Also, they did not have any permanent shelter, so they were always in search of new places to get food and shelter easily. Alright? Now, secondly, plants and trees on which they depended for their food in different seasons. So, food gatherers moved with the change of seasons. So, here you can see in the picture, figure 2.2, early men used spears and bows and stone for hunting animals, as you can see. Number 3, animal food also formed a major part of their food. When these animals moved from place to place in search of grass and leaves, man had also to move with them in order to hunt them. Alright. Fourthly, the availability of water was a necessary requirement for both man and beast as well as plants. Water is found in lakes, streams and rivers. When in the dry season some of the lakes, streams and rivers dried up, men were forced to move to search places where water was available, okay? Thus early men were nomads and wanderers who were always on the move in search of food and water. Such men lived without 2 million years ago. Now let's see figure 2.3, evolution of man. As you can see here in a picture, human evolution from its first separation from the last common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees is characterized by a number of morphological. Morphological is the study of words, how they are formed, okay, and their relationship to the other words in the same language, and development, physical and behavior changes slowly. This is the evolution of man. Man by nature is weaker than animals, like tigers, lions, elephants, great reptiles like dinosaurs, and great lizards, etc. He has neither sharp teeth nor claws or horns like an animal. So group of men, women and children lived and moved together. Alright? They moved in small group because it was safer to belong to a group rather than move alone. They used sharp stones which they had shaped into knives, axe heads, choppers, etc. to kill animals, to remove their skins, to fell trees, to dig the earth, and to shape woods and stone. These tools and weapons were all made of stone. Okay, so the period when these people lived on earth is known as the Stone Age. Alright, and let's see those stone tools, artifact, and their uses. The first one is hand axe. It was a pear-shaped tool with sharp edge on all the side. Here you can see hand axe. It has a pear-shaped tool with sharp edges. Here you can see sharp edges on all the sides. It was used for cutting certain objects, for smashing certain things. Alright, now let's see chopper. Chopper, it was made by sharpening the thinner edge of the stone. Here, this one is a chopper. It was mainly used for chopping meat. Okay. Now next is cleaver. It had a wide chisel type edge to cut other stones or small branches of trees. Where is cleaver? Here. Here you can see. This is a cleaver. It had a wide chisel type edge to cut other stone too or small branches of tree. Now scraper. It was used to clean or scrape the skin of animals. Here is the scraper. And next is budged. It was used to hing deep holes in the earth. Here, as you can see here in the picture. An arrowhead, this one is the arrowhead. It was used to kill running animals. Okay, so as I told you, they used sharp stone which they had shaped into knives, axe head, chopper, etc. to kill animals, to remove their skins, to fell trees, to dig the earth, and to shape woods and stone. These tools and weapons were made of stone, so the period when these people live on earth is known as the Stone Age. Okay, now let's proceed to the next topic, that is introduction to tools and weapons. Flint is a hard steel gray stone which the Stone Age men used for making his tools and weapons. It was so because flint, though hard, could be shaped easily by the early men into sharp knives, choppers, and hand axes, flag implements, and other tools and weapons. Several such implements used by the early Stone Age men have been found in various parts of India except in the Indo-Gangetic Valley. With their help, he could easily kill animals, cut down trees, and shape wood and stone as he killed. Later on, wooden handles were tied to these tools and implements, which made their use easier than before, as you can see here in the picture. Figure 2.7, a group of early men making tools. Here you can see they are making tools and weapons from the stone. Now, cloth and shelter. The primitive man of the Stone Age was guided purely by his physical needs. He gathered food when he felt hungry. Similarly, he covered his body to protect himself against cold and rain. For this purpose, he wore barks or leaves of trees and skin of the animals whom he hunted for food. He took shelter in caves or hid himself among thick tree leaves to protect himself from wild beasts and the other rough weather. Let's see discovery of fire. It was probably at the end of the Old Stone Age that the primitive man discovered fire. This fire brought a great change in his life. Burning of fire coal be used to keep him warm in the cold season, to get light in his cave, and to scare away the wild animal at night. Later on, he roasted his food in it and made it more tasty. No doubt, the fire to the primitive man was an object of wonder as well as of worship. As you can see here in the picture, the discovery of fire brought a drastic change in the life of the early man. So the early men discover discovered fire by rubbing two pieces of stone or flint together. Before discovering of fire, the primitive man used to eat meat without cooked. Okay, he did not know what is fire, and fire can keep him warm in the cold season and also get light in his cave and to scare away the wild animals at night. Later on, he roasted his food in it and made it more tasty. So, dear children, it says that one day, primitive man was sitting near a fire. He was eating raw meat, and suddenly the meat fell down into the fire. He picked that meat up, eat it. He felt that the meat was more tasty. Likewise, they understood and slowly learned how to cook food. All right. Now let's proceed to the next topic: Earth of the early man. Man lived in caves in the early stage of his development. He started drawing figures on walls and ceilings of the caves, but later on, this line drawing developed into beautiful designs and sculptures. There are descriptions of running wild bisons, bears, horses, snakes, and herds of other animals in beautiful designs. Such descriptions have been found in the caves at Altamira in Spain and Lascaux in France. He even made ornaments from ivory bones and beautiful stone. And here you can see a wall painting from a cave. There are descriptions of running wild bisons, bear, horse, stags, and herds of other animals in a beautiful design. Next, religious belief of the early man. It was after hundreds of thousands of years that the Paleolithic man developed certain religious belief. Okay, it was under hundreds of thousands of years that the Paleolithic man developed certain religious beliefs. Some of those beliefs are given as follows. The first one: he worshipped his ancestor after his death. He worshipped his ancestor after their death. Nowadays we worship different god and goddesses, but in Paleolithic, in thousands of years ago, that the Paleolithic man developed certain religious belief, and they used to worship his ancestor after their death. Number 2, he believed in magical powers. He believed in magical powers. Number 3, he buried the dead along with his tools and edibles, thinking that the dead might need them in their journey to the next world. They used to bury the dead body along with his tools, their stuffed clothes and all, and edible items also, and thinking that the dead body might need them in their journey to the next world. So they believed the journey to the next world. Number 4, the early man was afraid of lightning and thunder because he did not know what caused them. He thought that they were perhaps the expression of some divine anger. So early man was afraid of thunder and lightning because they did not know how they caused. Moreover, they thought that those were the expression of some divine anger. Now let's see the last portion: early Stone Age sites, choosing a place to live in. The following map shows the different sites where the food gatherers lived. Here is the map. Early Stone Age sites, Paleolithic age. Here some references are given. All the pink in color are the different sites where the food gatherer lived. As you can see here, Jalahal, Chennai, under bracket modern names, Madras, Mumbai, Bombay, Navasa, Nagpur, Adhamgarh, and here Barkocho, Lekhania, Birbhanpur, Kolkata, now Kolkata, Guwahati, Chiran, Patna, Delhi, Karachi, Quetta, Srinagar, Delhi, Islamabad, Sona Valley. These are the different sites where the food gatherer lived. Okay, so many of these sites were near the source of water, such as rivers and lakes. Such sites were known as habitation sites. As a stone tools were important. Some of these sites were near the places where stone was easily available and where people could make stone implements. Such sites came to be known as factory sites of habitations come factory site. So let us learn from this chapter that how the tools and implements have divided the Stone Age into different stages, that is the Paleolithic, the Mesolithic and the Neolithic period, and hunting and food gathering as a way of life and its implications, stone tools, artifacts and their uses, introduction to tools and weapons, clothes and shelter, discovery of fire, earth of the early man, religious belief of the early man, and of course the early stone age sites choosing a place to live in. So I hope all of you have written down the notes which I have sent. So read all the question answer very carefully so that you can prepare well for the exam. By the end of this video, you'll get some homework. Write that homework in your history copy neat and clean and send it to my personal WhatsApp number. Till then, take care. Bye.